everybody remember exactly what I just said because that was a decent intro.
I didn't realize it.
I saw a red little dot on my window, and I was like, "Oh, he must be recording."
Okay, there you go.
From
We're doing
the
it.
top.
Take it from the top. From the top. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Ride the Pine. It is episode 47 of the show. That is Adam Freeman and Kenny Hudden. I am Sean Sproat. Quick announcements before we kind of really dive into everything. The show is now on Threads. I don't know if anybody else is still on Threads, but we are officially on there. So now you can catch us Pod Ride the Pine on TikTok, Instagram, X, and Threads. So interact with the show there. You can also email the show now. podridethepine@gmail.com. Our second announcement, not as fun. I'm sure you guys have noticed an absence from the show. Unfortunately, we are pretty heartbroken about it, but we will move on. I'm sure you've heard, but Joey Chestnut has been banned from the 4th of July National Hot Dog Eating Competition due to his association with the faux meat brand Impossible Foods.
As he should be. What an un-American thing to do.
Did you guys hear that he's having a Netflix special with Kobayashi, though? I mean, there's going to be a lot of meat eaten on that one.
Apparently, Nathan's Hot Dogs was like, hey, even though that you have this partnership with Impossible Meats or Impossible Foods or whatever, what if we just like don't mention them and we won't even mention Nathan's on the actual competition? And Joey Chestnut was like, no, I can't do that. You guys have to mention the new partnership. So that's why you got banned.
Well, I know Nathan's in that Major League Eating actually like have really strict contracts, which seems
strange,
odd.
Yes.
Like, I mean, it's odd anyway that we gather around on the 4th of July at like 11 a.m. and watch grown men shove as many hot dogs down their gullet as we can. But, you know, hey, America.
It's the most 4th of July thing ever.
It really, truly is.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so mad at Joey Chestnut for doing this to us.
Yeah. I just want one time we have a SNL skit with the Chicago Bear fans, and you have a guy munching down a hot dog. And then I'm back. It's okay.
That's the 12th one this week. All right. So that was all the announcements. Also, Cameron's not on the show anymore. But anyway, moving on. Adam, what's our first topic of the day?
So we kind of teased it in the last episode. One thing I was thinking, and I brought up to the guys, was if there was a rule in sports that you could change, what would be the rule in sports that you would change, and what's the impact that it would make to that sport? Kenny, what you got?
So I kind of went off the cuff, or oddball, I should say, actually. So my first, I picked two, and I'll talk about my first, is that I believe in college football recruiting and probably even in basketball recruiting, coaches should be allowed to make mention of the players they made offers to. And what that would do is that I believe that would recenter the market, because right now you've got a lot of like 3 stars who are like proud to get an offer from Alabama, and then they commit to Alabama and don't actually have a committable offer because they don't understand that what was really offered was a spot if so-and-so doesn't take the spot. So I believe coaches should be allowed to comment on that, which they are not currently allowed to do, which also creates obvious issues when you have guys who are committing and making it look like they're taking spots up from the players you actually want. I think it's more fair to both sides, the players and the coaches.
I think that's fair.
What was your second one?
So my second one is to do away with making gambling across all sports illegal, with the exception of you betting on your own team where you can influence games. We have so many advertisers in sports right now. DraftKings, what's the other one? FanDuel, Betway, ESPN Bet.
Mm-hmm.
All these guys influence us, and of course these guys are going to gamble. what was the obviously Jonte Porter is fresh of mind. I mean, that dude was dumb. Shohei Ohtani, you cannot tell me he wasn't doing any gambling. No. What's the other one? The U.S. Open team in Miami that went into the Hard Rock and bet on themselves.
Yeah.
Like, you have so much more of this. How many players in baseball just got suspended? Like 4, and one guy actually got suspended for life, right?
Tucupita Marcano of the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Correct. Who bet on games while he was on the IL, which I ultimately have a problem with, even though he did bet on the Pirates. Like, you're not a baseball player at that point.
Also, Felipe Hernandez in MLS as well. He apparently did not bet on his own team, supposedly, but I don't know. I don't know how much of that story has really come out. So it's kind of widespread. To play devil's advocate on your rule change here, though, these players have intimate knowledge of other teams because not only did they play with a lot of those guys, they played against them. They've been in the same locker rooms.
Scouting reports.
They have more knowledge across their sport and across really multiple sports because of their advantageous position.
And I understood, and I understand that take is probably extremely hot. I just think it's part of the landscape of today, much in the same way that 5 years ago when the NFL was still drug testing for marijuana, and now it's legal in 37 states or whatever the number is. It's silly, right? I think we have to come to a point where we can understand that these guys can bet and enjoy sports gambling as much as I do or whoever else does if they do it responsibly and don't affect games.
I think you have to put a cap on it. Like, you can't bet inside the sport or the league that you play. If it's a non-associated league or non-associated sport, then I feel like it's fair. But if you are also caught with, like, quote unquote insider trading, where your buddy from, you're a basketball player and your buddy over there that plays hockey, you message him. He said, hey, by the way, player A is going to be on IR. You should probably hit the over. Yeah, then maybe not.
I mean, let's say that these gambling houses or clearing houses, whatever they're referred to as, aren't squeaky clean in this either. They want to be able to gamble on WWE events as well. Right. And like
crazy.
They is it FanDuel or DraftKings is like the largest sponsor of AEW.
Yeah.
Guys, this is scripted television, and you want people to lose money on whether Cody Rhodes makes AJ Styles say I quit, which is in a script.
And isn't it broadcast live as well? A lot of like the bigger events. So they can literally go up to the minute and see what the betting lines are and then say, hey, don't pin him here. Let's go ahead and change the story. Let's go to our backup plan because we can influence and we can change it the way the bets are falling.
Correct.
That's a bad idea. That one I can't get behind. Yeah.
All right, Sean, what do you got?
I've got 2 really quick ones. I got to talk soccer, so I could have gone offsides rule, but I'm not. I'm going to go the handball rule. And as St. Louis City SC fans,
please fix that.
Yeah, I think we know all too well how terrible this rule is. It's changed multiple times, but the current iteration of the rule, there's 2 parts of it. You cannot deliberately touch the ball with your hand or your arm, which starts at basically like your armpit and goes down. And the second part of it, which is the problem for me, is that you cannot be in an unnatural position and make your body unnaturally bigger. That those 2 parts of that second one are way too subjective for me. It doesn't. What's a natural movement? What's unnatural when it comes to soccer? If you're running like this and the ball comes across and hits your hand, is that a natural position because you were in a running motion?
Right.
And refs basically, they all interpret it differently. So there is no consistency across the sport, across all the leagues, across all the confederations. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So here's what I propose. You either do A, if it makes contact with your arm or your hand at all, regardless if it's a deflection off your own body, somebody else, does not matter. In any position, if it hits your arm or your hand, it is a handball. The second option is if it hits your arm or your hand, does it impede the path of the ball? So if my arm is in front of my body, the ball comes in directly and hits my arm here. It did not impede the path of the ball because it would have hit my chest. If my arm is here and it hits my arm, it impedes the path of the ball because it would have gone past me if my arm was not there. Those are the two ways that you could fix that. I lean towards two, but then you kind of get into a mess of like what happens with the hand of God situation with Maradona, because it would have hit his head if his hand wasn't there. So it can muddy the water. So maybe option A is the best, but the handball rule, no matter what, has to change. Thoughts on that before I mention my second option?
No, absolutely agree.
Cool. Perfect. The next one I have I think is a little bit more controversial. I think secondary defensive holding needs to be removed in football. I think holding at the line within the first 5 yards, yes, you should uphold that. I think in the secondary, they should be able to hold as much as they want. I think wide receivers and the offensive players have way too much. I don't know what the right word is. They have
advantage.
Yeah, thank you. They have too much of an advantage in their favor, and it's so hard to be a defensive back in the league nowadays, and they get called for the most ticky-tacky bullshit. They should let them hold. If you, as a receiver, cannot get away from them, then you shouldn't deserve to in the first place.
Yeah, and there's so much gray area in that too, as far as like what is a penalty and what's not. Even to the point that like a receiver can create the contact to a defensive back. The defensive back accidentally grasp because it's just a reaction, and that's a penalty.
Yeah, and you keep pass interference. I'm not saying remove pass interference. You keep that. If the ball is in flight, there has to be a line where you're making a play for the ball or making a play for the guy. But like if I'm basically making a point route, I should be able to hold on to you. Why? But it's a contact sport.
I would say as long as it doesn't stop a receiver from making his course corrections, like if he's running a post route or whatever, and he can't make the move, if he can still make that move, I kind of agree with that. And I'll throw a caveat onto it. Maybe the NFL needs to look at stealing another one of the UFL's rules and doing a super challenge where you could reverse something like that.
Yeah. Those are my two.
All right, I had a couple as well. One of mine had two parts, and I believe one of them has already been fixed or somewhat fixed. In golf, if you sign the incorrect scorecard and turn it in, shit happens. We have electronic scoring. We have so many different ways of keeping track of a player's scorecard. Why does a player have to handwrite out their scorecard and turn it in? And that is the word of the Bible in the PGA. I believe they've already fixed it. I believe now the player has 15 minutes to make sure that their time is correct. But whatever, that rule is done. And then in golf also, we have to get rid of the ability to zoom in to the 100th times to see whether or not a player touched the ball, moved the lie, did all of this stuff. It happens. People twitch. We all do it. You get close to the ball and we hit it. We all make the stupid joke. Oh, that's one. It happens. If you can hit the ball off of the tee, like Zach Johnson likes to do on his practice swings, and that doesn't count as a penalty, for the love of God, you can hit a tiny bump of the ball that doesn't change it. Who cares? We don't need the optical zoom level to be able to see what happened. And for the love of God, if Karen or Ken calls again and says, hey, PGA, guess what? So-and-so just finished the round, but back on hole 16, they had an error, and then they get a penalty. That shit's got to stop. That ruins the game. The game already takes too long. We don't need guys hovering over the ball, figuring out whether or not they touched it or not. Let's just continue on, go. We don't need 6-hour rounds of golf on TV. The other one that I changed, and this is going to absolutely piss off Kenny, and I think the change is coming to a certain level in MLB next year. The strike zone has to get fixed. There needs to be some sort of electronic strike zone. The other day, CB Buckner in 3 innings had
There's nothing wrong with the strike zone per the official baseball rule book.
There's nothing wrong with the strike zone. There's a problem with the people that use the rule. That
interpret the strike zone.
That is the problem.
Enforcement of the strike zone is the issue.
So, and I believe this is already in process. AAA, I think, is now taking on the challenge rule. I don't know the exact level that they're taking it to, but I know that I think AA and single A have had it in place. AAA is now going to be putting it in place to where the batter has the ability to challenge the call right then and there. I think just like the batters have a timeout and just like a pitcher has a timeout with the new pitch clock, every batter gets one challenge. Again, CB Buckner had 9 missed calls the other day, and some of them were ridiculous, borderline other batter's box outside the zone, and he called it a strike. Let's get real. Some of these guys have to go. Angel Hernandez, kudos. I don't know whether you retired on your own or the MLB finally forced you out, but my God, you suck, and I can't believe that you're finally gone. We should have had a massive party that day, but we didn't. But the strike zone enforcement has to change.
I had a joke written down, by the way, that I didn't use in our intro that basically I couldn't finish it. I couldn't figure out how to bring it around, but I have Angel Hernandez equals Landon Donovan's barber. I couldn't figure out how to make those two match.
Neither of them can see well.
But to your first point about the scorecards for golf, I just really quickly looked it up, how many cameras are used on the golf course at these major tournaments. The Masters, they use over 50 of these high-powered cameras. Why? We have everything is documented. Every single pace is documented. Yeah, I agree.
Topgolf can track how many balls you've hit and how far they go. They have the same technology on the golf course. Literally, Top Tracer is Topgolf. It's the same thing. Why the hell are we relying upon a guy to keep his scorecard?
Great question. Yeah.
All right, Sean, what's our first real topic?
All right, so let's move on. So we need to talk NBA Finals. Oh, go ahead.
Can I ask one question? Sorry, I'm trying to keep an eye on the hockey game. Where is the official strike zone?
At one point, it was...
No. What is
now?
Okay, so it's got to be the top of the letters of the jersey.
It was bottom of the letters.
Bottom of the letters. Right, okay, so it's not top. Okay, so
bottom of the letters to the top of the knee, right?
Correct.
Okay.
The issue,
and then the width of the plate,
is that yes, obviously.
Thank you.
And it's a 3-dimensional zone.
And I think that's the problem that a lot of the guys have.
I would get rid of that box on the TV. That's a rule change I would make, but I don't work for Fox Sports. But I say this because Bud Selig in his March for home runs shrank the plate. Shrunk the zone. So basically you were looking at belt buckle about a ball or two high above that and about a ball below it. And that's all you were getting. And these guys were cooking meatballs in there. So Barry Bonds could hit 73 home runs or whatever he ended up hitting.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong with the strike zone. It's the enforcers.
It's the enforcement. 100%.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Moving on, NBA Finals, the Celtics beat the Dallas Mavericks 4-1. I think we all predicted it on the last show that was pretty much going to happen. So congratulations to St. Louis's own Jayson Tatum and the Boston Celtics. I have a couple stats to throw out you guys just to kind of frame how dominant the Celtics were in this series. The Celtics scored 100-plus points in all 4 of their wins. Mavericks scored 100-plus points one time in their one win. All 5 Celtics starters, and whenever I say this, I'm including Porzingis, even though he played just 3 games. I'm including him in the starters conversation. All 5 Celtics starters averaged more than 12 points. On the Mavericks, only Luka, Kyrie Irving, and PJ Washington averaged in double digits. That's it. Celtics shot 86% from the free throw line, and the Mavericks only shot 68%. That tells the story of that entire series for me. And it's also really interesting that fact that even though I'm losing my train of thought here, even though Jayson Tatum led the Celtics in points and rebounds, he did not win NBA Finals. The MVP.
Who did? I turned it off after
Jaylen Brown won MVP of
Kevin
the NBA
Garnett.
Finals. And it's basically because of his defensive work on Luka Doncic.
I will say, one of the things that and we all knew that it was going to be over quick, whether it was 4 or 5, it didn't really matter. One of the things that blew my mind was the lack of effort that truly was put into Game 5, right? Yeah, yesterday was Game 5.
Game 5. Yeah.
By Dallas. I didn't watch much of the game. I think I watched like the last 3 minutes and then a couple minutes of the first half. But I like watching the stuff after, especially with my boy Scott Van Pelt. Like, he does a great job with major games that go on and then having, somebody on to break it down afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
He had Tim Legler on, and he was talking about at one point in the first quarter, it was 21-18 Boston.
Right.
Dallas came down. They had an opportunity to hit a wide open 3. They bricked the 3. That would have made it 21-21. Off of that rebound, Tatum got the rebound. I forgot who streaked across the back end. Easy layup, got it in. It was 23-18. Came down the very next possession. Another bricked 3, turnaround turned into a 3-point play, all because of lazy defense by the Mavericks for the Celtics. It was basically a 10-point swing, and that was the point that the game was over.
I was going to say that was the beginning of the end because I had the whole game on, and at one point I'm like, why do I still have this on?
Yeah, and then you have the 3 at the end of, it was the end of the first half, right? Off of the free throw, the missed free throw by Luka.
Pritchard.
Drained it from midcourt. I mean, again, nobody stepped up to stop him, to make him get another dribble. He also did travel. I don't know if anybody else noticed, but he took about 7 steps. That's a whole nother rule that needs to go away. Let him just travel. Let him run.
We totally could have mentioned that. Yeah.
Let him play football because they take like 17 steps with now the Euro step and the side step and the slide and all this random shit. Just get rid of traveling. But yeah, I mean, it blew my mind the lack of effort that Dallas had, and really it was the entire series.
When you look at recent winners of the NBA championships, they all have a thing in common. They have one dominant scorer, they have a secondary scorer, typically a big man, and then they have a shooter. Dallas does not have the shooter, and their secondary scoring does not come from anyone in the paint, doesn't come from a big. So they're very different. They're just built differently than pretty much any other team we've seen in the finals over recent years. I mean, think about the Nuggets. They are what I just described, pretty much that exact template, right?
Well, if you really think about it, like I just thought about it, like even when LeBron and Bosh and D Wade were the big 3, that's the same similar setup.
It's very similar, yeah.
Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and what's his face were the same.
Allen.
And the Golden State years.
Thank you. Shaq and Kobe and whoever was the third guy. Michael and Pippen, whoever was the third guy. I mean, that rotated. Steve Kerr probably. Yeah, Dennis Rodman and the one. I mean, that seems to be a pattern that all of these really good NBA teams follow.
Which is why Boston went out and got Porzingis, because even though he didn't, dominate games or anything, he still averaged in his 3 games. He still averaged over 12 points a game. He was still dominant for his position and what they ask him to do. So they're kind of a little bit of an outlier as well, but they're they're the deepest team in the league by far. But if Dallas wants to get back to this point, and I think that they need to act now to keep Luka basically happy so he doesn't go and run for a big market at some point. They need to go out and they need to go get a big. They need to go out and they need to get a 3-point shooter. And if they do that, I think Dallas could be really, really good for years to come.
Serious question. With Cuban selling off the team and having Adelson buy it, do you think they're going to actually go out there and spend that money?
So everyone here says yes because it's an influx in cash. I say no. I think what they're going to do, they're going to focus primarily on moving the team to this new site outside of downtown Dallas that they're looking at, where they're going to combine the stadium with a casino, which is a horrible idea in my opinion. But they're going to focus on basically building out that district, and I don't think we'll see Dallas spend money until that's completed and that's done and they actually move the team. Could be, who knows, maybe they go out and they drop $100 million on some free agent. I just don't ever see Dallas at this time, even with this new ownership group, extending into the luxury tax like you see the big markets do.
They're not as big of a market, though, and that's the issue.
I mean, DFW is very large market. But no, they're no LA
they're
or
not the high
Houston or New
producer,
York, or if any team outside of like New York or LA is going to do that, it's going to be Houston or Chicago. But Chicago doesn't spend money. The Bulls have not spent money on their team in a very long time. All they care about is making the playoffs and making sure they're in the black. And Dallas has been that way too, pretty much in the Cuban years, except for the lone championship in 2001.
Right. All right, cool. Anything else?
And I think that's more basketball combined in the last 46 episodes than we did.
I don't think for our first maybe 40 episodes, I don't even think we said the word basketball. So
I'm sure we did at some point.
I mean, I probably mentioned Dennis Gates at some point.
Yeah, that's true. You definitely have. All right, let's move on. Adam, what's next?
All right, I think because of our recording right now, we're going to jump to the U.S. Open this weekend. We got another minute and a half left in the Stanley Cup Game 5. So we'll jump to the U.S. Open.
I apologize.
We're just looking at the back of Kenny's head for the last 20 minutes. No big deal.
So jump to the U.S. Open this weekend. Pinehurst #2 put on a formidable challenge. I believe only 5 people finished under par, which is the way a U.S. Open truly should be. We all want chaos when we watch it. And the fourth and final round on Sunday was absolute chaos. You have Rory and basically Bryson going, I wouldn't say head-to-head because they were in 2 different groups, but really they were the only 2 coming down the stretch that were going to win it. Rory blows it on 2 putts that I think any of us could hit. Granted, the situation's a little bit different between us on Thursday and Monday nights versus the U.S. Open. Totally different situation. But Bryson also had a very iffy 18 that made it very interesting coming down the stretch. What are your guys' thoughts on Bryson winning another U.S. Open? His first one with fans, by the way, which I thought was actually really cool.
You know, the more he's out there, the less disdain I have for him. I will say, though, I brought it up in one of our text threads. I think that putter he uses should be illegal. If you cannot put the putter on your chest to create the arc, what is any different from having a putter that's extended and putting it on your arm? That's all I'll say about that.
I mean, he just bends the rules. It's just like a hockey player having a curve that's 1 degree less than what it should be. Like, he's just literally pushing the limits. And honestly, Kenny, I agree with you. The more that he is out there, the more that you just realize is he's a data nerd. That's all that he is. He's a data nerd that can hit the ball a long, long freaking way. I saw something the other day that was his club stock club distance, and it was like his 56 or his 60 was like 102, all the way up to his driver is like 310 carry or something like that standard. And it was funny because all the comments are like, I could hang with Bryson until my 56. Like, I could hit my 60 100 yards. I could hit my 56 about 120. And then Bryson goes into a 54, a 48, and then his 9-iron. His 9-iron, he hits 200 yards.
That's crazy.
I'm like, that's insane. I'm at like 150. That's where it like separates big time. But I agree. Like, I like watching him play because he is different. He does take a different approach with everything. I said it. I was the one that put it on Twitter that he should be on the U.S. Olympic team. I wish that we could see him play with the guys more often. I did have a question, though, for everybody else. Because Taylor Gooch didn't play in this U.S. Open, does it get an asterisk that Bryson won the U.S. Open? Or is it because Taylor's in LIV that it doesn't require the asterisk? Does anybody know?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I know.
To ask a serious question, Kenny, you were talking about his putter, and that's an advantage for him. Is there a way to quantify how much of an advantage that is? Do you think he still wins this tournament if he did not have that type of putter?
I mean, Rory loves shitting down his legs, so I think he probably wins it, but I don't know why I really like noticed it and honed on in it this weekend, because I think he's been doing it
he's been having it for
quite a while now. Yeah. It just really made, I don't know why it caught my attention, and I was thinking about that.
I think he wins with it no matter what. I don't
Yeah.
think it's much.
I mean, it's kind of an impossible question to answer because we just don't know, because he's not going to turn around and play the same round again with the normal putter. But if you think he should change the putter, then you got to think that he's getting an unreasonable advantage over the field, and he only won by 1 stroke over the field.
I mean,
and Rory had a better 4th round than he did.
What I'll say is this, and this is how I want to quantify this, is I was watching a TikTok the other day, and it was Tommy Fleetwood hitting 11 different styles of shots.
It's a great video.
I hit 1 shot.
Hard right.
Right in the water.
What I mean by that is my swing is my swing, and I am not capable of controlling the ball so well that I can hit 11 different styles of shot. I'm sure if somebody said that putter is illegal, Bryson could get out there and use a normal putter, and it might take a hole or two, and he's back at it. Like, when it comes to these golfers, they're so much better than the average golfer. It's not even insane. You might catch on a good day, a Bud Bundy like guy who's living in the past, who was a pitcher in college, who could get one past a major leaguer. There is no chance in hell I could even hang with a pro and they could give me 100 strokes.
Yeah.
They said that the what is it, a 20 or no? The average male handicap right now, I believe, is 15 or 16. And they said that the average male handicapper at Pinehurst would have shot a 101. Like, these guys were missing cuts after shooting 71. Or no, what? One guy, he shot a 70 and then 75. And I think he missed the cut. Or 71-75, I'm sorry. And missed the cut. Like, it is light years difference in that situation. One of the things that I thought was actually cool, one of the guys I follow on Loose Stanger posts a ton of stuff like data-wise as far as like just anything golf-related. So Rory missed 2 putts, 16 and 18, inside 4 feet. Inside 4 feet before then, he was 496 and 496. That's an insane number. To then say that you've missed 2, I'm not going to do the math. We all know that is less than 1%. That's crazy to me that those 2 putts just happened. And Kenny, you're 100% right. Rory is notorious for not being able to stay out front. He is a much better chaser than he is a leader. And he always will be, just because of his mentality. I don't think that this is his last chance. I think that he's going to win more majors. We have not seen I truly don't believe we've seen the best of his career. I think it's still coming. He just needs to get out of his own head. I think he had a lot going on this weekend. He somehow found his way to the final round. The other one that I thought was really cool that Lou posted, Bryson's bunker shot from 18 was 55 yards. He hit it to 3 feet and 11 inches. The chances of him hitting it inside of 4 feet were 1.7% for that to happen. Like, and then even to think of where he was off the tee box, the USGA official had his live redemption moment that he wouldn't give him drop from the tree root, which he should have got a drop from that. He should have also got relief from the stands that were right there. And the official said, no, you have to play it as it lies. You have to hit it off Frankenstein's fat foot. So he got his redemption for the live thing there. But for Bryson to be able to hit it into that bunker, to hit it to within 4 feet and drain that putt, knowing that he wanted to hit the putt just like Payne Stewart, knowing that the bunker shot was probably the worst shot for him to possibly have right there, and he still hit it. Like he even said before his round, I believe on Friday, he's like, of all the shots in my bag, a 60-yard bunker shot's the worst shot for me to hit. And he comes out and does it. Like, the dude's good. The live thing's stupid. Living PGA have to figure out something better. We have to get the best players in the world playing against each other. I'm getting tired of this. Yes, they do it in majors, but it needs to be on a fair playing field, and they have to do it once or twice a month at least. We have to get this fixed.
Yeah, I agree. Can we give some flowers to Tony Finau? Because I feel like he is deserving of it. The fact that he shot 4 under for the tournament, and he had 3 under for the fourth round on Sunday, which was tied with the law firm of Henley and Burns. So I think we need to give Tony Finau just some flowers just for finishing in the top 3.
I love Tony Finau. He's awesome. I wish he would win a major. I wish he would win a big time tournament. It doesn't necessarily have to be a major. I'd take the Players. That'd be a big one. He's just a solid golfer. I mean, I think his best chance to win a major was the year that he broke his ankle at Augusta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so let's go to another sport. Stanley Cup Finals, Game 5 is now officially in the books. Kenny, tell us about it.
Well, was that McDavid who put in that final goal? I couldn't see. I mean, the Florida made a valiant effort. Edmonton jumped out to a 3-0 lead. It might have even been 4-0 before Florida scored. I was kind of in and out at that point.
I think it was 3-1. I think Florida
3-1. That's what it. You know what? That is what it was. Valiant effort by the Florida Panthers, but you started slow, and I think they got the old we're lifting the cup tonight jitters and failed. So Edmonton forces a Game 6, and hopefully this will start to make up for that awful NBA Finals.
We can only hope so. I mean, we all kind of figured going into Game 4, Game 5 that we would probably have a cup by now. That's for sure.
I mean, I will say this. I think ultimately Florida will win because the odds are still in their favor, right? Like,
yeah, but man, if Edmonton wins on Thursday night in Game 6,
throw that out the window.
That's all. I honestly,
and it's not Thursday night; it's Friday night.
Oh, it's Friday night.
Friday.
Yeah.
Oh, they get the extra day of travel.
Yep. At that point, I say throw it out. And like I said, I thought the series was over. To be fair, but if McDavid does McDavid things, I believe he had 3 points tonight.
Do you guys know that he has the NHL record for assists?
Hey, did you know he has the NHL record for assists?
Yeah, I heard that a couple times.
Do you guys know he has the NHL record for assists?
You know, I think somebody said that already.
That's crazy.
Some guy named Wayne Gretzky passed.
We all pretty much wrote them off, even though Adam wouldn't officially say it. He basically said it on the last episode. They won Game 4, which we have not mentioned here yet, 8-1. Now, we said last week that pretty much every winning team has a crap game like that throughout the playoffs. Some of them have them in the finals like the Blues did in 2019. 8-1 is a whole ass whooping.
Yeah.
That has completely changed this series. The Oilers came out. They just beat Florida in Florida.
Well,
they could realistically win this series. They're going back home to Edmonton. Then the Game 7 would be in Florida. They have now just proven that they can win in the Panthers building. I think this is a series. I think this is going 7.
I think it's definitely interesting. I can't remember which text thread I put it in with us, but I mean, Skinner had a Jordan Bennington moment in that first period.
And we were all saying that he could not do that.
Right. And that's what everybody said with the Blues too. And maybe that's what they need to be able to do it. And yes, I was 100% wrong. I thought this game would be over in Game 5. Didn't matter what happened in Game 4 at that point. I thought it just was going to be a matter of time. They're going to come back in Florida, good to go. But like that first 5 minutes of this game, he was on fire. Yeah, he only faced like 4 or 5 shots, but the shots saves that he made were ridiculous. Standing on his head, getting all the pressure, and then Edmonton scored, and that quieted the building. And then they got the second one off the deflection, and they finally got to 2-1, and it just took everything out of Florida to have to come back. They made a very, very valiant effort to be able to get back to 4-3, and then obviously with the empty netter 5-3. But man, like Sean, you might be right, is that the momentum has shifted. 8-1 is different than 4-1, 5-1.
And sure. On your own ice too, to lose 8-1. That's the killer right there.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting, that's for sure. I still think Florida comes out with it, but I think if it goes Game 7, I think Edmonton comes home with it in Game 7.
I feel like I could see an argument either way. And if you would have asked me 1 week ago, whenever we recorded last, I don't think I even gave Oilers a shot in hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't, Sean. You were the only one who was down on him. It's a shame that.
Just me.
Yeah,
it wasn't anybody else on this podcast at all. No,
Nobody
just
else.
me. Yeah, I'll wear that
interesting
burden.
question that I saw get posed by somebody on the internet. No matter what, does Connor McDavid win the Smythe?
No matter what, no.
At this point, no matter what, does Connor McDavid win the Smythe? Because it's not Bobrovsky anymore.
You say that it's not Bobrovsky, but if he comes out and pitches a shutout, and Edmonton pummels him with shots on Friday night, that could play a factor because even in the games they won, Bob didn't give up a lot of goals. So, I think that might be in consideration. I don't think Florida has a clear-cut Conn Smythe outside of Bobrovsky, because I'm thinking like you got Carter Verhaeghe, but like he's been okay.
Yeah.
And then Evan Rodriguez he's been okay.
Barkov.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm changing my answer. I think I'm going to say yes, because whenever I look at the top points throughout the playoffs, the top 3 are all Edmonton Oilers. And then you have Barkov at 21 points. But to put that in perspective, Connor McDavid has 38, Leon Draisaitl has 30, and Evan Bouchard has 29. So Alexander Barkov is 8 points behind the nearest Edmonton Oiler.
And the Conn Smythe is the whole playoffs MVP.
Correct.
People tend to forget that. That's why, like, when I forget who it was, the Ducks lost to somebody.
Yeah, I was just looking it up. John Sebastian
Giguère won the Conn Smythe because he stood on his head.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Who was that they lost to? I want to say the Flyers, but I don't remember the Flyers winning a Stanley Cup.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah,
but there's only been 5 people, I believe. Yeah, 5 people. Giguère, Hextall, Reggie Leach, which I don't know who he is, Blues great Glenn Hall in 67-68, and Roger Crozier of the Detroit Red Wings in 65-66. Only 5 of them have done it. So it still would be one of those things that is very, I don't want to call it unprecedented, but it kind of is. When you think of all of the Stanley Cups that have been had, only 5.
When you say they've done it, are you saying like they were not on the winning team?
Only 5 players have won the Conn Smythe and not won the Stanley Cup.
Okay. That's kind of surprising because it is supposed to be an entire playoffs award, not just a finals award.
Yeah, but generally your finals your playoffs MVP is going to be in the finals.
Correct.
Generally.
Yeah, but not necessarily win. Like it could go game 7 and lose. Maybe that's what happened within those other 5 instances. But I feel like there's been more instances of that where I guess it maybe should have gone to somebody else. I don't know. I don't have it in front of me, but
I think if we want to pull up our favorite Stanley Cup and pull up the 19 season, I feel like O'Reilly did have the most points, right? Like, or was it Patrice Bergeron?
I'm looking. Keep going. Go in. I think you might be right that it was O'Reilly.
That would have been the 2019-2020 season, right?
O'Reilly had 23 points, 8 goals, 15 assists. Marchand tied him with 23.
Okay, that's who
right.
It was.
So that was 2018-2019.
Okay. I knew it was on the big on that big 3 they've got. But put that in perspective. What McDavid has done. McDavid had 30. What he's got 32 assists now. Mm-hmm. O'Reilly had 23 total points.
Yep.
Right.
Like if they lose on Friday, the Oilers do. I think McDavid is still your Conn Smythe.
So even if it does not go to game 7, you think he's hoisting the Conn Smythe?
Yeah.
I think so.
I think the NHL will do anything they can to prop up McDavid, and that's not to say he didn't earn it, but they need him to be the face of the NHL, and I foresee a potential Edmonton downslide.
Oh,
Right,
for sure. If they
their
don't win a
defense
cup,
is in shambles. They're in
they're talking
just
about
as
trading
much
Draisaitl
salary
at the end
cap
of the year
hell as the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
Like, you have to market your stars, and this is what the NHL does very poorly. The NHL and the NBA do two things extremely poorly. They do not market their stars. You have to have McDavid win something. And I know that sounds bad, but he's got to win something.
But it needs to be done. Yeah, I think I am in that same boat. I think that no matter what, McDavid wins the Conn Smythe. Unless Bobrovsky comes out and stands on his head and pitches a shutout.
If they pummel 60 shots at him or something ridiculous like that, and he lets one in,
right,
you have to give it to him.
I think that's the only way that it gets done.
I think I agree with that. I'm gonna look a little ahead for a moment, and this might sound a little crazy, but Connor McDavid's contract ends after the 2025-2026 season. Do you think him winning either the Conn Smythe or the Stanley Cup this season has any impact on him re-signing with Edmonton or testing the free agent market?
Absolutely not.
So you think he will re-sign?
No.
Oh, you think the opposite?
Having a conversation with my brother the other day, talking about how all these guys who go up to Canada, and that's why their salaries are inflated. He could go play on a team in Dallas or Florida, Tampa Bay, and make no state income tax and pay a fraction of what he's paying in Canada. And the worst thing about the worst thing for these NHL players about the Canadian tax is that they don't reap any benefits from it, right? They are not a part of the National Healthcare Service that they have up there because they're, Connor McDavid's got to go see Edmonton doctors, right? Edmonton Oilers doctors. He can't use that service. So for him, he just feels like he's wasting money and his salary is inflated. That way he can still play there because he's only earning like $6.5 million. That's how much taxes he's probably paying.
Yeah, and even to spin off your question, Sean, I said it a second ago. The Oilers were talking about trading Draisaitl in the offseason if they were.
They were, yeah.
So I think if they trade Draisaitl at that point, McDavid sees the writing on the wall and he says, "I'm out."
So if they don't re-sign him, can I just throw out a scenario that's the first year where the Utah team will have their new branding with an actual team name? That's one hell of a way to ring in a franchise.
Yeah, that'd be a massive money influx that franchise would have to put up for him, though.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about what max at that point is still going to be an 8-year deal, right, Kenny? Or no, it'd be a 7-year is the most that you can offer a free agent unless something changes with the CBA.
And it would be large.
He'd have to be traded first.
Right. So you're talking about a 7-year, probably up around 15 in AAV would be my assumption.
Yeah, but think about Utah didn't have to build a building.
They're going to have to.
They're slow playing all of this branding and coming out with this, which is going to save them money in the long run.
Yeah.
I think
I could see that happening.
I think if I'm Utah, though, I would say if Connor McDavid hits the free agency market, first of all,
it's going to be wild.
Holy shit. But even if you're a team like a Florida Panthers and you think you're set, you have to make an offer, right? You have to make an offer. If you're Utah, though, you're hoping that Clayton Keller continues his upward swing. Now, if they move on from Clayton Keller, I wouldn't be shocked if that was in play.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're 100% right, Kenny, especially with the way the cap is going up. I think that at that point, if he hits free agency, every team should be interested in him.
You just treat it like the Golden Knights and you'll figure it out later. Right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and who knows, maybe he'll have a very similar career trajectory than another famous Edmonton Oiler who was the face of the franchise.
Mark Messier.
Nailed it. Perfect.
Grant Fear?
Yes, Grant Fear.
Am I getting closer?
All right. Well,
All right, wrap it up.
How about Kenny? How about you hit our socials, man?
Oh, dude, I was not ready for this.
I know, that's why I picked you.
All right. Follow us on Twitter at Pod Ride the Pine. We're on TikTok at we're at Pod Ride the Pine on all the socials.
Yeah, it took you a moment to figure that out.
Well, you know, I don't really pay attention when Cameron was talking.
And Kenny, what's the new social media site that we are on?
The new social media site is Threads.
Which I think it's impressive that our we end of the school year social media intern is gone. We had to get a new social media intern, and immediately we get a new social media outlet for us to be going on. So,
guys, check out the video
fantastic.
that Sean posted that got almost 13,000 views. It's hilarious on our YouTube shorts. I think YouTube is my preferred platform for all of our content. So, just my opinion, if you're going to find us on YouTube. You can still listen to us on the Spotify, on Apple Podcast, wherever you else get your podcast, but YouTube is preferred.
Yes, I made a joke earlier at Cameron's expense, but I will say that Cameron, has decided to leave the show. He's got just a ton going on. He's a very busy man, and we are gonna miss him. But I don't think that's the last that you'll see of him. I'm sure he will be back at some point. So,
oh, for sure. And I will also say this: if you make sure you follow us on all these socials, especially on YouTube, give us a subscription. It goes a long way. And hit that alert button too.
We really don't mention that. We should probably say that more on episodes. Go ahead and give us a like. Give it a follow. Like, why not?
We still got some stickers floating around, so if you can show that you give us a like, a follow, 5-star rating on whatever the platform is, you send it to the email that Sean provides, and I'll send them to you.
If you ever want to be a part of the show, if you ever want to comment on any of the topics, any of the headlines that we cover, if you really just want to say anything, email us, podridethepine@gmail.com. We will read it out on the show. We'll interact with you. We want our listeners to be a part of the show going forward. That's going to be a big piece.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Let's wrap it up. Everybody have a great night. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week. And I think next week we might have the results of the NHL playoffs as well, right? We should. Close.
We're going to be close. If it goes to game 7, it's going to be Tuesday night. So I would suggest
we'll live stream it.
Ooh, maybe. We'll have to discuss that. We'll be back next week though, guys. And so in the meantime, have a great week. See ya. Bye.
Okay, bye.